welcome aboard the 757 Spy flight deck. And that is the Fenix A320. We're at Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport, the simulated version, of course. Hello, I'm Dave. I do the spy flights over on Twitch, and this is one of my cold and dark videos. We've had this airplane now for a week or so, and it's probably time to start thinking about doing, here's what I've learned so far, and here's a great way for you to maybe think about getting your airplane from point A to point B. Let's take a look at the flight plan for today. We're going to fly a flight from Atlanta to Chicago. The add-ons that I'm using is FlightAware. I'm also using Navigraph charts and data, SimToolkit Pro and SimBrief, Hoppy ACARS, and METAR-TAF. We're jumping right into this flight. This is a very complex airplane. There's lots of rabbit holes. I'm going to be concentrating on just basic operations on this one and also on-time operations on this airplane. You actually need to do an on-time departure here. If this is your first time doing a cold and dark video with me, fly along, stop the video, load up your sim. We're in Atlanta, and fly along. The cool thing about a YouTube cold and dark video like this is you can stop the video and catch up. You can also rewind the video and look at something again if you might have missed a button push. I also like to suggest that you do your own hometown flight at some point in time. Depart from your hometown airport because you're going to recognize the landmarks, and that just kind of makes it drive a little more of a connection on these great airplanes. I'm going to be talking about the on-time departure as we go along, but this is our flight plan for today. 8 right, 27 center. Those are the runways we're going to be doing. There's a step climb in the middle of this at Vostok, where we'll start off at flight level 350 and then go to 360 as we move on. Weather for the flight today, it looks like it's going to be really nice all the way up to Chicago. And as far as the times, the time that we would start boarding is 6:55 a.m., which is literally about a minute away. So we really need to start moving like we've got a purpose here. I've already done the flight planning. So we're going to jump into the best seat in the house. This is the electronic flight bag, designed and coded by a real-world Airbus pilot, Katie Pilot, over on Twitch TV. And now I understand Katie Pilot has a YouTube channel here, and I can't recommend that enough. Let's import the flight plan from SimBrief here. And one of the things that you're going to see is we have 41 minutes to our departure time. Yeah, 41 minutes. It takes a while to get these airplanes up and running. So now that we've got that, we're going to come on up here. Let's get the airplane turned on, battery 1, battery 2. And so these things are here. If you're wondering why there isn't any sound, it's because I forgot to turn the volume up. There we go. Let's punch in external power. And today I'm recording this on the 30th. That's an even day. So we're going to use nav and logo light system number 2. There's 2 identical systems, and there's a variety of things that people do, schemes for your deciding which system to use. We'll do no smoking because we have to refuel the airplane, and that's going to do it for just the first few seconds here. The self-test is in progress. It does take about 40 seconds for a self-test on the airplane systems here. But while that's going on, we can go over here, and we're going to go out of this, and we're going to go over here to the pilot brief. I'm going to be relying on very few things outside of this cockpit for this flight today. So almost everything that you need to be able to do, you're going to be able to do right here in the EFB or in the McDo. And here's our flight plan. See, there's that little step climb there. This is the United Airlines version of flight plan. So that's what that is. And so now that that's there, we've got the airplane powering up. Let's do the APU fire test. And the light goes on and the fireworks go on. And so that's going to master switch. Fireworks is my little code word for all the lights turn on. So master switch is going to go on, and as soon as that goes on, we can go ahead and we can start the APU. So what's next here? Well, let's see. Let's go down to, as you can see, I've got 2 different views here. I've got 2 different McDo's. We're going to use the first officer's view, and we're going to go to a system over on this one. There's basically 2. And we're going to use the ATSU system. ATSU stands for Air Traffic Services Unit. And there's 2 menus up here. We're going to go to the one on the right. It says AOC. That stands for Airline Operations Control. We're going to click this one, and we're going to go to the top one, and we're going to do Flight Init. And then we're going to go down the blue button here and Init Data Request. No knitting is required here on the init, but we are going to initialize this, and there is our flight. United 441, Atlanta to Chicago. Our alternate is DTW, and our estimated time en route today is 1 hour and 35 minutes. Apologies for my voice. It's going to crack a little bit. The pollen has started here, and I also might be dealing with a little bit of a cold too. Okay, so with that going on, let's go over to the one on the pilot side, and we're going to do the FMGC and check over here to make sure you've got nav data. I do have nav data from Navigraph, and if you're going to be flying on VATSIM, and really with this airplane, that's actually one of the things, a subscription that I suggest you think about picking up. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but in the end, if you're going to get serious into simming, or you already are, it's one of those things that I think is a good idea. So May through June 15th, we're good to go there. Let's go to the init page, and I'm going to do another init request. Awful lot of knitting going on here, and yep, we've got the jokes already flying here. So I'm looking for our route to pop in Atlanta to Chicago with the alternate, and now with that, I'm going to come up here and we're going to do IR number 1, and let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit. So IR number 1, the fault light on and the battery light goes on. Let's do number 2 to nav. Fault light goes on battery. And then we wait for that to go out. Then there's number 3, fault light and on battery. While we're at it and up here, let's go and do a fire test for engine number 1. And engine number 1 works. How about engine number 2? All right, we've got fire systems working. Now I'm going to come on down here, and I'm going to turn on the crew supply of oxygen because I guess they want to breathe or something. Let's also look down here. The APU is available. We're going to get the bleed turned on, and I'm going to turn the temperature in the back of the cabin down just a click because there's more people in the back of the cabin. Let's also turn this cargo heat up to about minimum in case somebody puts a dog down there or something like that. All right, airplane's coming to life. Let's put in our flight number, and our flight number is UA441. It's UAL441 is the airline call sign, but the flight number is the 2-letter identifier. And we're going to put that in flight number. Our cost index today, we can get that over here on the pilot brief, and cost index is right there, 27. So cost index is 27, and that goes in there. Our final cruise altitude, this is an area I'm a little bit foggy with. I think our final cruise is flight level 360, although we're stopping at flight level 350. So I'm going to go and put the top end in there, flight level 360. There we go. Flight plan has been uplinked. We're going to clear that. Let's go to the winds page now, and we're going to request the winds. And that's going to go out through the network and get all of the upper level winds for us. This helps the airplane do better calculations for us, and we need good calculations. Okay, airplane is slowly coming to life. It is now 1300 Zulu. We're departing at 1335. We need to get the passengers rolling here. So let's go back to the Fenix application here, and let's go to mass and balance. The American term might be weight and balance. Mass, weight, I think those are relatively interchangeable here. We're going to have 134 passengers boarding, so let's load the aircraft. And it's going to take 22 minutes real time, 7 minutes fast time, and instant. I'm playing real time today, so 22 minutes. And this is going to start fueling the airplane. It's going to start putting cargo in the airplane, and the passengers are going to slowly start getting aboard the airplane too. If you look over here outside, you can see it's opened up your cargo doors. It doesn't show cargo or anything like that, and it doesn't show passengers walking down the jetway, but that's going on right now. Okay, so that was the important thing. We got the passengers going down. Let's go over here to WX, and we're going to do a weather request, and we're going to do KATL. Atlanta, put it up there, and I'm going to request the METAR, and we're going to go ahead and send that out. There's several places that you can actually get the METAR. You can get it through this. You can also come over here to My Flight, and you can come over here, and there is a weather page. And so if you go and you hit the recycle button, it's going to get the latest METAR, and there's our weather too. If we were on VATSIM right now and there was air traffic control, you could even get their DUR.DIST there, which I think is absolutely amazing. Other things that you could take a look at here, we've also got our GPU and our chocks are out right now. The one left door is open, cargo doors and bulk is open. You could also, if you don't have jetways, you could put forward and aft stairs up. And this is also the tug that we're going to be using coming out too. Next thing for us to do is let's go ahead and get our charts. And really the pilots would be doing things like setting up their stack of charts in their EFB, and they would be doing other things in the pilot's lounge probably before they went out to the airplane. So we're going to go and get a few of these too. Atlanta Hartsfield, let's go and get a few things first. Now, this really is a neat little application. The problem is sometimes when I hit the star there to go and get the airport data, the airport chart, sometimes charts will disappear out of all of this. Don't know why, but that's one of those things. But we come over here, and here we all are. We're at Concourse T. This is where United parks. And T12 is our gate. There is our runway for departure. Okay, we're done with ground charts. Our departure. Okay, what are we doing for the departure? You can exit out of an application and go into different ones, or you can just click along the top. What we're going to do is look down at the flight plan here. There's all of our fuel. We're going to do the Varnum to departure. So instead of clicking out of this, let's go and move your pointer up here to the top, and you can just go and get the charts that way. So now we're going to go to the departure, and we're going to go and grab the Varnum to departure. And usually I hit the star button, and then I'll actually click on this, and hopefully that goes, and there's our Varnum to departure. We'll be departing, and it's Arnav to Ronnie. So there we go. That's our departure going out to Varnum. Now go over here to this top tab, see where it says starred, and let's see, do we have the airport? We have the airport. Good. And we have that. Like I said, sometimes these things disappear on you, so I'm pointing this out not to be mean to the developers. I'm just saying be ready, because it'll probably disappear on you when you need it. Coming into Chicago O'Hare, let's do the arrival, and we can come back up to our flight plan. And here's the flight plan, and we're going to come in on the VEEC-5 departure. So we'll come back over here to charts, and let's see if we can't find the VEEC-5 departure. There's VEEC-5. Hit the star button. Let's click on it just to see. And there's VEEC-5. We're coming in at Bonnet. And let's see, I think we're going to be, Chicago is taking off and landing to the west, so I think that means that we're going to be exiting this star over here at Clouseau, so for our west landings. And let's go back up here, and the real world is, nope, we wanted this one. Real world right now is taking off and landing on 27 Center. So let's go ahead and grab 27 Center. Now, if I were on VATSIM today, one of the things that I would be doing is I would also be getting the ILSs for the other runways too that they're using. So that way they're already set and ready to go. So ILS, yeah, I already forgot. 27 Center. Okay, 27 left, 27 left, 27 left, 27 Center, ILS and localizer. So I'm going to hit the star button, and let's click it. And there's our approach in there. Vogler's going to be a transition. Let's click the star button, and there's VEEC-5. Now we're going to come up here and do a ground chart. And we're going to do the ground chart for Chicago. Make sure that we've got that. So there's Chicago. Let's also do parking gates and make sure we have parking gates starred. And we're going to probably come in. I think I got Charlie 31 right here at the end. So there's our gates. Hit the star button. Make sure all of those have shown up, and they have. Cool. Let's see how the passengers are doing. And let's see. Passengers are going to be over here. We have 36 of 134 passengers aboard. Looks like they're done, not quite done fueling yet. So they're still putting gas in the tank. So good thing we don't have to pay the credit card on that one. Okay, so now that we've gone and done all this stuff, we can go and we can start putting a few things together. So let's click GPS primary. That means that the airplane has done all of the alignment, and the McDo knows where we are. So flight plan and ATL, KATL, and our departure. And we are planning to blast off. If you've forgotten, look at your notes. My notes say it's 8 right. And what we're going to need is we're going to need the charts for all of this eventually. So let's get the charts over there. So 8 right. And we know that we're doing Varnum. So go down here. There's Varnum 2. And our transition is Glazer. So Glazer. And all of that's good. Click that in there. So there is our departure. Let's do ORD now. Arrival. Right now we are expecting 27 center. Sometimes you have to click it another time. I think that one of the things is I click through this stuff a little bit quickly, and you're probably not supposed to do that. And I think that they've modeled that in there. You don't click these. These are not super fast computers here. So 27 center. And we're going to do VEEK. There's VEEK 5. Oh, one too many. There's VEEK 5. And we're coming in via bonnet. So that's another reason why I like to do my charts beforehand. So the transitions are fresh in my mind. Vias. Don't forget to hit vias. Vogler takes you really far out there. I'm going to go no via on this one. We don't need to go all the way out to Vogler. And let's insert that. And sometimes you have to hit it as, make sure you hit it. Okay, hit flight plan. This is going to put you at the top of the flight plan. And then one of the things that I like to do, the real pilots are going to come over here and go from arc mode to plan mode. They might turn on constraints. And then I'll kind of come and go down a little like this and then pan down like this so that I can, and I might have to go out just a little. And so I can reach here. So here's my map up here. And then here is, you can step through your flight plan and see what it looks like. And so this should take us all the way up north through the star. There's the star appearing. And then after we go past Cluzo, okay, this is a little unusual here. So Cluzo, after Cluzo, it continues. We're actually going to be exiting this. So we don't actually need KATL because they're landing the other way. I'm going to leave those in case maybe Chicago changes direction. I don't think they will, but you can also see there is our ILS already in there too. So all that looks good. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to be like real pilots. And we're going to go to the secondary flight plan. And I'm going to go to the init page. And we're going to go KATL. That's Atlanta. KATL. And we're going to go the slash and then KATL. There's two ways to do this. This is just the way that I do these. Oops, my slash didn't work. KATL slash KATL. I'm going to do that. Now, I'm not going to do anything else with this at the moment. Let's go back and hit the secondary flight plan again. Let's go into the flight plan, and we're going to hit the arrival. And let's hit the arrival. And we're going to be taking off on 08 right. So ILS 08 right. That's the longer runway, and we're going to be a little heavy. And now let's hit the no star button and return. And now let's see here. Let's go over here and let's see if we can't get that same little view here. Well, let's look at it close. And you can see now there, the green line, this green line here is our flight plan. Let's make it a little bit wider here. So the green line is our flight plan that takes us up to Chicago. But this little white line, you know what that is? That's the ILS approach coming in. So if you lose an engine, you have to do an emergency return to the runway. Your flight plan is, you've already got the ILS in. You just have to switch to the secondary flight plan. So looking up here, you see there it is in there. Now go ahead and just hit flight plan and come back up here and you see it's gone. So your secondary flight plan is all set and ready to go. Okay, back to arc mode. And I'm going to put this down to about 20. Okay, so that looks really good. Let's go over here to return to the ATSU AOC system. And let's go to messages. Oh, look at this. We got a couple of messages here. The first one says weather data. This was the METAR that I requested. And the altimeter here in Atlanta is 3010. So let's put that in. Hectopascals, be sure and switch that. And 3010 is our altimeter setting. And go over here. Hectopascals, 3010. You can set this stuff, this airplane up to do all of your altimeters at once. I just haven't gotten around to that yet. And this is already set to 3010 to from hectopascals to inches of mercury. So now we've got that set. Looking over at our charts, one of the things that you're going to find on VATSIM is when you get your clearance, after you do the clearance joke, they're going to tell you climb by the SID. Okay, see here's what I'm talking about. See how the Varnum 2 arrival is in here, but our airport is not? Well, you look over here and look at ground charts, and you see it's still starred. So there's something wrong with this. I'm not sure exactly what, so sometimes you have to do it twice. I'm not trying to pick on the developers. I'm just saying, hey, be ready for that, because chances are you're going to find that when you're busy on approach. So one of the things that ATC in VATSIM is now saying is they're saying climb via the SID. Climb via the SID, part of that means that you are expected to know the instructions for your SID and what your top altitude is. So our initial climb is 10,000 feet. That's what they're expecting us to know about. So I'm going to put my initial climb in here as 10,000 feet. That's what we're good for, and that's what we have. Okay, so all of this is looking good. Flight plan's good. Let's go and return. And we now have a load sheet. Oh my gosh, look at all these numbers. There's a lot in here. And if you go over to the Fenix Sim website, they've got some nice help documents, and they've got a really nice little rundown on what is in the load sheets and how that works. This is just what it takes for you right now to get through a flight with me today. And what you first want is this number right here. It says ZFW, zero fuel weight, and it's 56,925. Okay, you only need the first three numbers. And to put that number in, go to init and hit the right button here. That's page 2. And see where it says zero fuel weight and center of gravity? So the first three numbers, 56.9. So we would go 56.9. That's our first number. Hit the little slash button. Now over here, go to page 2 or go down. And you want the MAC ZFW. So zero fuel weight, mean aerodynamic corridor, center of gravity. And so that's going to be 30.5. So let's do 30.5. And that goes right there. Okay, now the next thing to do is look up here. Have they done finished fueling? Well, we've got 7.8 kgs in there. You could come over here and look at your flight plan and look down here at gate fuel, 7.845, and that's what we have in there. So for block fuel, we can go and put 7.8 in. And it's going to start doing a bunch of math for us. So we'll let the computer do a little bit of math. And let's come back over here and let's see if the passengers are still going. Okay, 100 passengers, 34 left to go. We're almost ready to push back. What's the current time? It's 13:15 Zulu. Take a look at the boarding pass here. So passengers are supposed to be boarding at 6:55. They're supposed to stop boarding at 7:25. So we're actually ahead of schedule with the airplane departing at 7:35, and we should be into Chicago by 10:35 a.m. That's we're in Eastern time right now, so that's Chicago time, 10:35. So all of this is looking really good. Let's go back over here. The pilot has time for a drink of coffee. They've already loaded the cargo, so cargo is loaded. If we go outside and look at the airplane, you can see that the cargo doors are now closed. So all of that's good too. European airlines are not turning on the APU as early as I did. I think there's a noise rule that you don't turn it on. I think it's got to be 10 minutes before departure. One of the things is with COVID and stuff, airlines need to get the ventilation system going. So you either attach a ground AC unit to be blowing the air through the airplane, or you turn on the APU. I think some airlines actually have some pretty long requirements, you know, for APU ventilation before you're even allowed to let the passengers come aboard. Let's come on over here. Let's do accept. And so we've accepted the load sheet and come back over here to our messages. Now then, one of the things that we can do is there is another application that we can look at. 109 passengers are aboard. Let's go to the departure performance. This airplane is so complete. This is something that I've been waiting for an Airbus for a long time, okay? So let's do sync the load sheet. That's our preliminary load sheet. Our runway for departure is 08 right. So look down here, there's 08 right. We're going to go flaps to optimum. We're not going to force toga. Anti-ice is off. It's summer, almost summertime, and it's Atlanta. Come on. We're going to leave the packs on. Let's leave the air conditioning on and be nice to the passengers. Now we're going to sync live weather. And with that, we're going to hit calculate. This is going to give us a preliminary look at our speeds for takeoff. So optimum flaps is going to be flaps 1. Our trim is going to be up 0.0. 145 is V1 and rotate. 147 is V2. It will fill in transition altitude, and I believe thrust reduction, acceleration, all of those numbers are accurate too. So we've just gone and done a preliminary version of that. All right. Let's go back over here and see what the passengers are up to. 116. This airplane, as I've said, is a super complex airplane. And so one of the things that I've gone and done is I went out on the internet and I looked for a checklist. Now, my checklist is a little bit old. You're going to hear me using a term called good to the line. And I'll do that a couple of times. I think Airbus has actually eliminated that. So that's old. But with these airplanes, if you can find, and it's pretty easy to find these things online, get a PDF and print it. I wouldn't put it in a little plastic thing. The airlines actually have these on big cards and they're laminated. And they expect their pilots to go through these every time. So this is one of the things that I'm going to be using, because if I don't, I'm going to start forgetting stuff. I mean, so I really suggest that with this. I suggest it with the PMDG. Over in X-Plane, I have one of those set up for the INI builds, the A300, the A310, and I've also got, was able to find a flight plan for the MD-11 that Rotate put out. These airplanes are getting more complex. So guess what? I think using a checklist is a pretty smart idea on these things. All right, so things are looking good here. Most of our cockpit setup is getting done here. Let's go and look up here and see if there's any buttons that we can press. Nothing really at the moment. The thing is are your lights out? This is one of those lights out upper panel. If the light's out, we're good, supposedly. So all that's good. Now, one of the things I was reading is we do have the interior lights. I was reading in an Airbus manual. They suggest leaving the dome lights to dim in the Airbus, even in the daylight, apparently. So, and I'm trying to remember why, and I don't. Here is another cool thing about this landing lights. There's 2 of them. So you see I've got the little up arrow here on that one. And if I go over to the right side, there's an up arrow here. And if I go down the middle, there's an up arrow. If you click in between the 2, it does both of the lights together. Nice little time saver for you on this amazing airplane. 133 passengers are aboard. We're about ready to go. Let's go ahead and start doing some buttons here. I'm going to disconnect from ground power. Let's also turn on seatbelts. And let's look out the right side of the road, the right side of the window. Look at that. The passengers are aboard. They have now just retracted the jetway. So this is how fast this is going on. So boarding is complete. The flight attendants are going to be doing the pre-boarding announcements now. So at this point in time, it's time for us to go back over here to the departure perf page. And over here, we're going to, now it says sync load sheet final. So there is the final load sheet. Now sync live weather, calculate. Here's our final calculations for our takeoff here. So we're going to do flaps 1. Oh, look at this. We have a trim setting change. So flaps 1 down 0.2. Let's go to perf. 1 for flaps 1, the slash, DN 0.2. Okay, that goes in there. Are we going to do a flex? Yes, we're going to flex to 66 degrees. So we're not going to take off at, full power. So that's a good thing to do. Come on over here. 139, 140, and 142 are our speeds. So 139 is V1. 140 is rotate. And 142 is V2. This airplane is smart. It knows transition altitudes pretty good, but I'm going to verify. It's also got thrust reduction, 2,524. This says 2030, 2030, and 2030. So let's go with these, 2030 and slash 2030. Whoops, I don't know the difference between a 3 and a 6. 2030. And then we're going to also, that's the same number for if we lose an engine, 2030. And that goes over there. It could be that the transition altitude, it wants us to verify that. I'm not going to worry about that really at the moment. Okay, passenger signs are on, doors are closed. I'm going to arm the emergency exit lights. This is different. So you hear the pilots or cabin, somebody saying arm doors for departure. Okay, what they're talking about is the slides. That's what's happening back in the cabin. This is different. We're not arming the slides, we're arming the emergency exit lights. Okay, and everything else is looking pretty good up here. The lights are out. We've got nav lights on. Nothing else is going on at the moment. We're going to look down here. All of this is good. We're waiting for the final load sheet. I think all of this is pretty good. Let's come on over here to the Fenix app, and it shows all of our airplanes. Let's go to ground services. And if we look at ground services, we've disconnected ground power, right? Well, let's just look and make sure. Yes, it's green and available. It's not punched into the system. So let's go ahead and I'm going to disconnect ground power. Let's also go here and I'm going to connect the tug. And so right now outside we've got a tug that's going to be connecting, and you can see there it is right outside the window. Let's look outside. Here comes our tug. It's almost time to start doing airplane things. Okay, so everything's looking good here. What we're going to do now is I'm going to do the before start checklist. And cockpit prep, I think, is done. Gear pins and covers are aboard. Passenger signs are on. The ADIRS is set to nav. Fuel quantity, verify. 7.8 is what we're supposed to have in the tanks. Go over to your flight plan. Look at the actual number. Is that what it says? 7.8. Perfect. Fuel quantities verified. Takeoff data. V1, VR, V2, all of that's in. Barrel references, those have been set. And now we're good to this thing that I said, we're good to the line. Now at this point, this is probably, the line has to do with, are you ready for taxi? And for this point, it's windows and doors. I think they're closed. Beacon. Let's turn on the beacon. Beacon is now on. Thrust levers are idle, and the parking brake should be on. So we're good to go there. And everything else is great. How are we doing according to the schedule? Well, right now, it is 13:25 Zulu. If you take a look at that boarding pass I put together, so we started our boarding a little after 6:55 a.m. The boarding pass said that boarding ends at 7:25. So we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule with departure at 7:35. That's gate departure is 7:35. Put together a little thing here. So to do an on-time departure on this airplane, you really need to start your planning. In this case, for a departure at 7:35 a.m., you need to start planning and having your sim ready to go at 6:45. Power up the airplane at 6:55. Boarding begins. You need 20 to 30 minutes. Mostly it's closer to 25 minutes, and you want to be able to close your doors. Passengers are in their seats by 10 after. And that's basically taken off of a real world boarding pass and me being a passenger and being far too observant. And that's how it is that I've kind of figured those things out. So if you want to try and get out of this airport on time, that's what you have to do. So 1326, we actually are a little bit early. Usually I've noticed by watching things like FlightAware that the morning flights, if you can get out a few minutes early, wow, is that a good thing to do. Go over to Navigraph before we start going around the airport. I'm going to make sure that we've got our main chart. And we're going to also zoom in just a little bit so that we can see this. I really like the fact that we've got the moving map here. And basically we're going to go to 8 right. So 8 right. Sometimes VATSIM ATC will tell you push and start at pilot, at pilot's discretion, call for taxi. So in this case, what they would be talking about is we know we're going to 8 right. Call for taxi means you're out of the ramp area. So this is the ramp area right here. Ground control actually starts at the end of that. So if I were on VATSIM right now and they do things normally, I would push and start and I would taxi up on my own discretion to 1N. 1 November, these are spots that you would call in on and say, we're ready to go at 1 November. And then at that point, they'll probably say taxi 8 right to via Foxtrot and hotel. And that's how we would do that. Maybe Echo, I'm not sure, but that's kind of what we'll do. And so if VATSIM is telling you push and start at your own discretion, call for taxi, you can basically count on the fact that you can go to a spot like this and you're all ready to go. And we are ready for taxi. So I'm going to look up here. I'm going to hit the all call button for the cabin crew, let them know that we are serious about rolling the airplane around. I'm also going to turn on my fuel pumps because I guess these jet engines like fuel for some silly reason. And now it's time to start taxiing. So they've already hooked up the tug. The tug is hooked up. Let's go down here. I'm using the Thrustmaster Airbus controls, and let me tell you, they work great with this airplane. Parking brake is off. We're going to come over here, and let's go to the Fenix app. And we've already got the tug. Let's hit start and look out the window. We're pushing back. How about that? And you look over there. Yay, we're pushing back. How cool is this? And you can even look outside. Let's see. I haven't been to Hartsfield in so long. I would imagine that they swing the tail right or left. With this kind of an application, I just basically do a straight push. Supposedly, toolbar pushback is not working very well. Okay, that's good. So let's hit stop. This airplane, the pushback does not stop on a dime. So it's going to roll back a little bit further. But what I'm doing is, are we rolled back behind this driveway here? And I think we're rolled back pretty much behind that driveway. We're not 100%. Yeah, we actually are. We're behind the driveway. My wing is clear of this driveway, so we're not affecting ground traffic. So I'm going to do parking brakes are on. We're going to come over here, and I'm going to disconnect the tug. And now all of my ground stuff is clear. I'm going to go to my flight. I'm going to hit the refresh button. And altimeter is still 3010. I'm going to go to my charts. And it is time for engine start. So 3010. Oh, I don't know how to tune my... I don't apparently know how to do a an altimeter. Yep, 3010. Boy, am I clueless. How many of you caught that? I will tell you that if I were just flying myself without, talking on a video and stuff, I probably wouldn't have done this. So if you're a live streamer or you're making videos, I will tell you that the level of complexity of this airplane, and if you're hosting a live stream or something, wow, boy, does that get you. Boy, it makes your workload a lot bigger. Load sheet, our final load sheet has come in. So come on back over here to the init page. We're going to go and put these in before we start doing fuel. So zero fuel weight is still 56.9. It is. Let's look at the next page. Zero fuel weight center of gravity is 31.4. Ah, it changed. So do a /31.4 and then put that in there. So if you can, if you're doing an on-time departure like I am, you have time to do this if you stay ahead of the clock. Back to the performance page. We're good for engine start. Let's go ahead and go starter, goes to ignition and start. We're going to look up here. Do we have pneumatic pressure going to the engines? We do. Engine number 2 starts. Now, if we were doing a one-engine taxi, I've found a checklist for one-engine taxi. A lot of the European airlines, and I think probably some American airlines now, are starting to do one-engine taxis. And this is saying use engine 1 to start first. I've always heard on an Airbus you start engine number 2 first. I don't know. Right now, that's what I'm doing. But if I were going to be doing a one-engine taxi, if we had a long taxi like in Amsterdam to, that runway, I would very probably be doing a one-engine taxi for sure. And looks like we're going to get a good start there. Since if we were on VATSIM, we would be required to squawk mode Charlie on the taxiway. So over on your transponder, you put your transponder code in, and I'm going to do 2 clicks to the right to TARA, and there is this top knob here, and I'm going to just turn traffic to on. And we have engine number 2 has started. And it says available. If you miss somehow, it says available. If you missed that, if you're doing other things, how do you know it's available? Okay, watch what happens. See where it says N2 down here? See the 2 zeros? Let's go ahead and start engine number 1 now. I've just hit number 1 and see how it turned to gray? When there's a gray box around N2, you're in the middle of the start process. The gray box goes away after your engine is available. So if you're busy doing other things in the cockpit as opposed to monitoring the oil pressure and the oil temperature and fires and stuff like the real pilots are during a start, that's how it is that us sim pilots are going to know that, okay, yeah, the start's over. We're done with that part. The current time is 13:34. We have pushed back before 13:35. This is an on-time departure. So there you go. If you look at the way airlines do the scheduling, the pilots care about 4 times: off, on, out, in. Okay, the gray box has gone away, so let's go back, and the ignition's going to go to normal. This point in time, I usually come up here and turn off the APU bleed, and I turn off the master switch. Now come on back here, sit down correctly, and I'm going to move my stick all the way to the right and release it. And it should go to neutral. All the way to the left. Release it, it goes to neutral. Push the stick all the way forward. The elevator goes all the way there, all the way down, pull it back, all the way up, and make sure it goes back to neutral. Rudder all the way to the right, release it, does it go to neutral? Left, neutral. That's the way the real pilots are going to do that. And then look down at your McDo. Trim is down 0.2. So push the nose down 0.2. It's a very small number. At this point, I'll go over here, and we would be turning on predictive wind shear. That doesn't work yet. So we are going to arm the speed brakes. I'm going to reset my rudder trim, and we are now ready to go. Passengers are in good shape. Looking outside the window, make sure nobody's out there. I'm going to turn on the nose light. I'm going to ring the cabin bell one more time. Lets the flight attendants know we're serious about the taxi thing. Feet on the toe brakes. Toe brakes are pushed. Parking brake is released. I'm going to look over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to advance my throttles just a little bit. I'm going to see when we get going, when we finally start rolling, get us going, and then hard over. And there we go. It's a little late on that. I didn't have my hand put on the stick correctly. Okay, there we go. We're going to go get on the little line here. So one of the things is I just kind of grabbed the stick, not the way I'm supposed to. And so one of the things is on the Thrustmaster stick, there is a button above the trigger button or the radio button. And I have that button set up so that it always returns me to the center view. And so I didn't have my hand there. I have to pay attention. Look out on the taxiway. You see our little yellow line? You see the triangle up ahead? Let's look and see what that triangle says. It says 1N, just like the little taxi, just like the chart says. So this is spot 1N, and this is where, if we were on VATSIM control, I would stop here, and I would call Atlantic Ground, United 441, at 1 November, ready for taxi. And that's where we are, 1 November. And they're going to tell us, United 441, you're a menace, get out of here. Now, we would be saying taxi, 8 right, taxi via Foxtrot Hotel. Via Foxtrot and Hotel. Out we go. It's summertime. It's a late spring, early summer at the time that I'm recording this video, and my head, for some strange reason, is still in winter mode. Part of the reason is it's been cloudy and rainy around here a lot, but one of the things is in wintertime, you're not putting your flaps down right now for takeoff. You wait till you get closer to the runway because there's slush and snow and stuff, and you don't want that to get into the mechanism of the flaps. My brain is, for some reason, still there well, let's look outside. Look at that. It's cloudy, it's rainy, it might be 50 degrees, but yeah, that's why I'm still kind of in winter mode right now. So that's why I didn't put my flaps out. So there's Foxtrot, and down we go there. We can go and start doing a few things. Let's go and do auto brakes to max. We're getting closer. I'm also tap dancing just a little bit here. One of the things is I found on this airplane, it seems like we're going incredibly slow. This is about the speed that you would be taxiing. How about flaps 1? 1 plus F, so there goes our leading edge slats. Slats, not schlats. Sounds like a kind of a beer from Milwaukee. Let's get back over here where we belong. There we go. How'd the flaps come out? Oh, look at that, flaps 1. Yes, you know, flight sim pilots are geeky about things like watching the flaps go out. Takeoff config. Let's take the takeoff test. And look over here. Is our ECAM green? It is green. We passed the quiz. After start checklist. Anti-ice is not needed. It's Atlanta. It's getting hot. ECAM status is checked and clear. Pitch trim is set. Rudder trim 0. That's good. How about before takeoff checklist? So flight controls were checked and set. Flight instruments are set. The briefing has been done ad nauseum. The flap settings is confirmed. 1 plus F. You look right there. ATC is set, and the ECAM memo is clean and green. We are now good to what I've been calling the line. And again, I think that they've stopped using the term the line. And here is Taxiway Hotel, and there's our runway. This airplane does what I call an engine idle taxi. So my throttles are at idle, and we're just kind of going along at about 10 knots. That's absolutely perfect. I think that if you're on a straight and level, taxiway, these airplanes are engineered to do this little 10-knot engine idle taxi. If you're going downhill, you're going to pick up speed. If you're going uphill, you're going to have to add a little throttle. But there you go. And on the before takeoff checklist, we're coming up to the hold short line. And on the checklist, the first thing is runway, verify. Yeah, we've confirmed 8 right. That's what we're supposed to be at. Cabin crew has been advised that we are serious about doing that flying thing. TCAS is set to TARA. Engine mode, we're going to leave it as PAX on. And PAX are on. Engine mode is going to be normal. If it were raining, I think that we would be going to... I'm not going to say. In the older airplanes, you would be going to continuous relight. I don't understand that one, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that one. So that's the thing about these airplanes. There is so much to learn. Okay, let's say that we've just gotten our clearance to line up and wait. So add the throttles just a little bit. Let's get ourselves rolling out onto the runway. And here we go. And there we go. So onto an active runway, this is when I usually go and do strobes to on. I know there is an auto position, but I'm a control freak and I want my strobes strobing. I'm also going to take my pointer and I'm going to put it between the landing lights and I'm going to go 1 click up. This is one of those airplanes where the landing lights are on a little motor and goes down. Maybe it goes the other way. Anyway, I'm going to go and deploy the landing lights under the airplane. And let's get ourselves lining up for waiting. And we're ready to go. Checklist is done. It's flying time. And for me, this is the absolute best part of the flight. Is flying time. Okay, we are lining up and waiting. If we felt like it, we've also gone and taken a look at the paint on the runway to make sure it matches. We could also look over here, and there was a windsock, and you can see the windsock. One of the things I've noticed watching real cockpit videos is the pilot not flying reminds the pilot who's flying what direction the wind is going, and they actually point. So wind is coming at you from ahead and to the left. Wind is coming at you ahead and to the right. That sort of thing. We just got our clearance for takeoff, so landing lights are now going on. It's the last thing you do. It lets the tower and everybody around you know this airplane's serious about hurtling itself down the runway at a gazillion miles an hour to reach for the sky and all that. I'll stop. Throttle's going up. I usually take it up to just below the halfway mark there. Observe your engines. Are they stable? Yeah. And now we just go and put it all the way up. Manual flex. SRS and runway are both... SRS and runway and set, and auto thrust is blue. Those are three things that you see down there in the primary flight display. We got a little bit of a crosswind, so I'm getting myself centered back up. And whoa, I'm too busy looking at my airspeed, and there's 100 knots. I really wish that Fenix would include speed callouts for takeoff on this airplane so that I can concentrate on looking down the runway. V1 and rotate. Up and away. Positive rate, gear. Although I think that's a positive rate is a Boeing thing, not an Airbus thing. I just did a Boeingism in an Airbus. The Airbus police are going to be breaking down the door at any minute now. Okay, watching my flight directors. Okay, it says lever climb, so thrust reduction, and we now have thrust climb. And watching the flight directors, lower the nose a little bit. Amazing to go. This airplane and this scenery, absolutely the best thing in the world. Okay, flight directors are now neatly lined up. Still climbing a little bit too fast. Whoa, that's too much. I think that my control sensitivities are a little bit too sensitive, so I'm kind of changing that a little bit. So I got to work on that. And everything's looking good. So flight directors are slightly off. We're direct to Ronnie. At this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and get AP going because I use the AP a little bit more because I'm kind of flying along with you. And let's go ahead and flaps. This way we can also look outside the window. I look at downtown Atlanta. I mean, that's just... tell me it doesn't look that good. Okay, maybe it's a little more pollution. I don't know. But it's just so awesome to be able to look outside the windows like this. Yes, I miss getting to fly. Miss getting to fly around. Okay, flaps are up. Let's disarm the speed brakes. Don't think we need to go back. Seat belts are up. No smoking is up. Landing lights are up. Passing 5,000 for 10,000. Probably at this point we would be talking to departure, and departure's going to say climb and maintain 17,000. So we'll just dial that in there and continue our climb as we come out on Ronnie. So we can come over to the Varnum 2 departure here, and there we are. There's Ronnie. So one of the things is we have a speed restriction here, and it's over here at Hoyt. So 250 knots to Hoyt. After that, we can start to speed up. Don't see no real altitudes here, so we just climb. Top altitude is 10,000 feet until we got cleared, and we just cleared ourselves. Oh my gosh. Seriously, this airplane, this kind of airplane, this kind of scenery, Is now not the best time to be doing flight simulation? The highways are so cool. The one thing that's missing, and I'm sure that it's the, I'm sure that there's somebody that's got some security concern or something like that. One of the things about airplanes, particularly when you're flying VFR, is broadcast towers. And one of the things is we don't have a lot of the broadcast towers, and I really like to be able to see those kinds of landmarks out there, because especially for VFR, which this simulator is amazing for VFR, that would be one of the things that I'd really like to see them do. And out we go. Passing 12,000 feet, ATC's just called up and said climb and maintain flight level 350. Let's just go ahead and go all the way up to flight level 350. Now remember, our flight plan today, we had a step climb in here. So if we go over here and look at the pilot brief, we remind ourselves that we are going to flight level 350 to Vostok, and then it's flight level 360. So if we can come down to the flight plan, we're looking for, there's Glazer, Jetter, there's Vostok, that's when we do the climb. Chances are that's because on a north flight like this, you kind of go out a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. So technically for part of this, we're heading in westbound, and technically we're heading eastbound, and that's why we've got those two little flight levels there. Passing 15,000 feet, speed's starting to come up now because we passed Hoyt, so our speed is now coming up. So it's up and away there. After takeoff checklist, it's not quite time to do those, but we're going to do that in just a second. Actually, the old school, we could have done that. So we would have gone and confirmed landing gear is up, flaps are retracted, and the packs are on. And we're good on the after takeoff checklist and climb to the line. The last thing you would do is the barrel reference, and here in the United States, that is at 18,000 feet. Over here, I'm going to come on and do a couple of things. For pilot flying, I'm going to go to performance on this side, and over for pilots not flying, I'm going to go to either progress or fuel prediction. There's an important number on fuel prediction. It's up here. It's small. It says 3.8. That is our estimated fuel on board when we get to Chicago. So that's how much it says we're going to have on board. If you look at the flight plan, right now that's remaining fuel, and it says 3.7. This number here, REMF, is the sum of this number here. That's our alternate. That's 2.1. An additional 15 minutes of flying, and there's our 30 minutes of flying for holds, for go-arounds, for an ATC delay, for, Captain, we're out of Colombian coffee. So assuming we don't have to do any of those things, we should have a minimum of 3.7 kgs of fuel in the tanks. And so that's what this number is all about. And I really care about watching this number in airplanes for events like cross the pond. Because on airplanes where that number is always going down, 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 if you don't put enough fuel in, you're not going to make it. There's a number here that I don't have, alternate and time. And so to the alternate, which is DTW, I think that number should be 2.1. So let's just go ahead and put a 2.1 in there. Somebody said that I need to do that manually. I've noticed that sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And the number and the time that we should go, so 2.1, it was 48 minutes. So 2.1/0048. That was the time over to our alternate. Now it didn't like the time that I put in there. So it didn't like that, but it did take the 2.1. So there's another thing that I have to learn. And while I was busy doing all of that, now the QNH is flashing at me. So altimeters, standard. And if you don't do the other one and you've got it set up like I do, it's going to whine at you. It's going to whine at you. It's going to whine at you. See? It's like, yeah, see? All right, finally. And it says, nav baro ref discrepancy. It finally whined at me. So go ahead and fix that. And then it doesn't care about this one so much, but it's always good to go to standard there. Okay, we're also past 10,000 feet. Guess what I forgot to do? Retract my landing lights. So just turn those off. The nose wheel light is already off. We're going to turn that off too. We've passed 18,000 feet or 10,000 feet. Usually the airplane captain does a cabin call at about 10,000 feet, at least on United. And that lets the cabin crew know that we're passing 10,000 feet. They get on the PA and remind passengers that the seatbelt sign's on. No, you can't go to the bathroom, but while you're waiting for the seatbelt sign to go off, why don't you look in the seat pocket in front of you for a great credit card offer from the company? I'm going to go ahead and we're pretty much out of the star here, so from constraints, I'm going to turn on airports now, and I'm going to go to 80 miles, and this is going to basically show that I have, this shows airports. So if I lose an engine, it's sort of like, oh my God, I gotta die. Oh my God, I gotta die. Oh my God, I've got to land. This shows where airports are. So that kind of helps you out. And everything's looking good there. Generally, I leave seatbelts on until about 25,000 feet. If there's no turbulence, I'm going to turn that off. Other airlines and captains might leave the seatbelts on until top of climb. Probably it's more correct to turn this on to top of climb. Another thing that happens in the real world is terrain radar. So one of the pilots is expected to be monitoring terrain radar. Usually with that, I'll go over and turn this down just a little bit in the back, or well above terrain, and then the other pilot is expected to monitor weather radar. As of the time of this video, weather radar doesn't work, but they say that there is a chance that could be fixed when we get Sim Update 10. So that's exciting. 25,000 feet. One of the things we could do is we could say that the we'll ring the bell again, let the cabin crew know that they can stand up and start doing cabin crew things. We'll keep the passengers in their seats a little longer. Our flight time today is 1 hour and 35 minutes. If we were flying here on United, we would, on a morning flight, we would be offered coffee. We would, or soft drinks. I think that if you're in first class, you can have booze. Well, that's for free. You'd probably be able to do that. This airplane is amazingly detailed. If you look here, we've got no smoking and seatbelts up there. And when I turn off the seatbelt sign, that light goes off. There's another thing on this airplane that's really blows me away. So come on over here and look up here. See that 19 DEF? That is seat 19F. And if we come up here, let's go up a little further. Look at that. They numbered the aisles on the airplane. They actually numbered the aisles. That blows me away. Modifications. So I went and I did get the United livery. There's a modification that changes the cabin lights to this new modern blue. Now, technically, if you're saying, wait a minute, why didn't Fenix give you a United livery? Why did you get a new one? Well, let's go outside the airplane. So the thing about this is United does fly the A320, but they don't fly the CFM engines. They fly the IAE engines. So chances are we're not going to get an official United livery until we get the IAE engines, which they are working on and supposed to come out. It's not just United. Aegean flies a lot of A320s, but they fly the IAE engines. So we'll probably get an official Aegean livery when we get the IAE engines. They're also going to add, I believe, sharklets for some of the airplanes. The older Airbuses have this wingtip, which I believe they called fences. So I think they called that the fence, but we're also going to get sharklets. And how we doing here? 29,000 feet. You can see here, this is a top of climb hockey stick. Term hockey stick is something that I heard first from Captain Mike Ray. Captain Mike Ray is a retired United captain who has a very extensive series of books called the Flight Simulator Pilot's Check Ride Manual. And originally, Captain Ray was writing those books for people hoping to get a job flying for the airlines, because your first thing to do is you have to pass a check ride. And this was a book to help you out. And Captain Ray, I think, first wrote those for the 757. He flew 7.5s and 7.4s, and then retired, and then wrote for Airbus too, his own line of books. And they are at utem.com. utem.com. Some of them are a little pricey, and if you want to jump down a rabbit hole, they are great rabbit hole books for learning and understanding these books from a real practical standpoint. Okay, passing 31,000 feet. We are currently looking pretty good here. Let's go over to, we're 32 miles from top of climb. And right now it's estimating Chicago O'Hare at 15:16 Zulu time. Right now it's 13:58. So we got about an hour and 45 minutes of flying time here. Passing 32,000 feet, and again, we're going to continue our climb. We're stopping at 35, and then we go to 36 at, oh, it's actually over here. 36 at Vostok. So we're just coming up to top of climb, then Glacier, Jeter, Heleb, and there's Vostok. I'll usually leave this one on the performance page. If we were on VATSIM, we would probably be changing radios. If we didn't have ATC, we would be announcing our intentions on 122.8. It does work very well. If you're new to VATSIM, a lot of people are new to VATSIM these days with Microsoft Flight Simulator, and you're nervous to talk on the radio. I've done some videos on this, but one of the messages is, don't be nervous. Even the real world pilots get nervous talking on the real world radio. They also get nervous talking on VATSIM, of all things. Okay, these are the people that are flying these things for real, and they say they get nervous on VATSIM too. So you're not alone. One of the ways to overcome being nervous, what do I say? And I say, basically, one of the best things to do is be like a movie star and practice your lines, okay? And so, a little rehearsal. Let's say we're back on the ground and we've got VATSIM, ATC all over Atlanta, and we haven't even gotten our clearance. So what's our Roger on that one? Well, the Victor is practice your lines. What do you need to do? You need to say who you are. You need to say where you are. You need to tell them that you've got the latest weather information aboard and what you want. So in my case, I would have been Atlanta delivery, United 441s and A320 on the ground with you here at Tango 12. Information, Victor is aboard, requesting clearance to Chicago. Okay, I practiced that a little bit, but if you start practicing that in your head, even if you're not on VATSIM, eventually you're going to get it. Then when you're ready to get on VATSIM, you're going to be ready to go. And we are settling into our final cruising altitude here of 35,000 feet. Outside the airplane, the current temperature is minus 24 degrees Celsius. It's a little on the chilly side. We have got a wind from the east today at 9 knots. Must be a low pressure system somewhere. That's a little unusual. We, let's see. Okay. We are still in climb mode. It says 7 miles there. Oh yes, we're still in climb mode because we're going to flight level 360. So I think it's going to leave us in climb mode. Chicago is Let's see here. Chicago is... Which one of these gives me the distance? It's not field prediction. It's 3.8, so we've got enough fuel. That's it. Which one gives me the mileage to the air? Oh, I think it's this one. Let's see what happens. It still shows 2 miles here. Let's see what happens after that. That's probably... Yeah, this is where it's going to be. So when that goes to 0, let's see if that gives us... It's still in climb mode. Maybe... here it is. So managed U2 distance to Chicago. There it is. To top of descent, it's 380. I know it's in here. It's probably right in front of my face. Clearly, I haven't had enough coffee. And it's going to leave us in this climb mode thing until we get to that one-step climb. I'm probably not handling that well. There's probably a thing for me to do. But we're at our final cruise. It's beautiful outside, so we probably can go over here and do seatbelts. Captain would make the hello from the flight deck. We've reached our final cruising altitude of... Looks like it's going to be a smooth flight. We're turning off the seatbelt sign. Please don't everybody go racing for the bathroom at the same time, because, you know, that might make the airplane tip on its side, and that's uncomfortable for some people. And here we all are. And this is a point in time where you've actually got a little bit of time, unless you're busy on VATSIM, that you could sit back and look out the window and see amazing scenery. And if you haven't got to go in an airplane in a long time and you're really wanting to get out and do some stuff like that, now's the time to actually just give yourself a second to look out the window and enjoy the really great, you know, Microsoft Flight Simulator scenery. It's just awesome. Look out front. You can look down here and let's see where we are. So come on over here. We'll go to Navigraph. And we're going to go back here. We're done with the departure. You can go to your route. It's got a very nice route map. And one of the things you can do is you can kind of zoom in a little bit. And okay, there's Knoxville, Tennessee. There's Kentucky, Evansville, West Virginia. There's Cincinnati. Okay, when in Cincinnati, watch out for flying turkeys. Yeah, you would have had to have watched WKRP in Cincinnati to get that stupid joke. But anyhow, this is one of those really, really cool things that you can do to be able to, that you can, you know, go on a little tour, a simulated tour, which is really good. Earlier in all of this, I was mentioning a couple of times, and that's up here. It says out, off, on, in. That's kind of a real-world aviation thing. So out, that is when you need to be out of the gate. Out of the gate at 13:35. Off, that's usually about 10 minutes later. That's when you take off. On, this is when you're expected to land. And in, this is when you're expected to be at the gate. So we are expected to be at the gate at 10:35 local time or 15:35 Zulu time. And if we come down over here, it's estimating that we will be at Chicago O'Hare at 15:16 Zulu time. Now, one of the things that I have noticed over time is SimBrief overestimates this time a little bit. The airlines go on a little bit tighter schedule, and this time is usually anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes, you know, extra than the airlines would do. So if you want to actually go and try and do a real-world type of a shadow, that's one of the things that you can do. All right, let's see here. We are proceed to flight level 350. We're there. So let's see. What's this going to do? This is going to be 354 miles to top of descent. So this thing's already giving me a top of descent here. That should happen at 14:53 Zulu. Generally what I do on these cold and dark videos is now is cruise. There's not a lot that's going to go on. The only things that I'm going to do is go over here and I'm going to hit McDo menu. I'm going to go back into the ATSU and AOC system. And I'm going to go to weather. And I'm going to do weather request. And this time I'm going to go KORD. I'm going to go up there, request the METAR, and send it. You could also get this very same information here on the Fenix app. You can hit the arrival button and it's going to get you the latest METAR there. So right now, Chicago's got winds of 190 at 15, gusting to 27. I guess it's the Windy City. 10 miles visibility, broken clouds to 25,000 feet. It's 24 degrees, the altimeter is 2984. You can also click over here, and this gives you your route and your progress, which is pretty cool. Shows your runways to remind you. There is amazing good information on this. It's just absolutely out freaking standing. So we have got a little bit of time on the cruise menu. We have got 343 miles to top of descent. So this is where I basically hit the pause button on a video like this and not make you listen to me yammer on, about nothing. This is when you actually get to look out the window, sit back, and enjoy the flight. And I will look forward to checking in with you when we get to about 100 miles from top of descent. Hey, we're back for one little thing. We are 2 miles away from that checkpoint in the sky, Vostok. And remember, we had a change in altitude. We're turning more westbound now. So flight level 360. And we do have to hit the little up button to manage our climb to our final cruising altitude of 36,000 feet. So our flight path, we were a little bit east, a little bit west. So we did a little bit of a zigzag here, and we're going up to our final cruise of 36,000 feet. So if we go to performance, you'll see it's still listed as climb, and in 6 miles we should be at the top of climb there. So that's a little thing that was going on. And this should settle us into our final cruise. The only other thing that's happened here is since we last checked, is I did get the latest weather for Chicago. There's our latest weather in the ATSU AOC system for Chicago. So how are we doing here? 3 miles to top of climb, to final top of climb here at Vostok, and that's going to take us on in. And let's have ourselves a quick look here in 2 miles. Airplane's still flying really good. Oh yeah, we're still in the air. Our fuel is still pretty good too. And so distance to top of climb, and we are 192 miles now from top of descent. So all is good. We're going to probably pour just a little bit more coffee. And like I said, we'll see you at about, right around 100 miles from top of descent, and we'll start talking about arrival in Chicago. Okay, I got a little bit of work to do on my drone flying, okay? I know. But it sure is fun. Hello, welcome back. We're coming up on about, we're getting close to about 100 miles from top of descent. And I gotta tell you, this airplane is just so much fun to fly. And, with this amazing scenery as we look around the airplane, it's just, it really has been an absolute treat to start learning how to fly this amazing airplane. Hello and welcome back. I hope your flight has been going as well as I did. And how we doing? Well, we're 98 miles from top of descent, so I missed it by 2 miles. Not bad. Let's go and take a quick look here and do Phoenix. And this is just going to be the fast update. So this weather was 1351 Zulu, and it retrieves. It's still 1351 Zulu. So this is just the fastest way that I've found to do a fast check of the weather. Right now we need to brief the approach. Sorry about the nose sounds and stuff like that. Pollen and a cold. Boy, springtime. Anyhow, we're going to come in here on at Bonnet. We've got Nylon and we've got Veek. Notice we don't have a lot of altitudes here. And Cluso, expect radar vectors to final approach after Cluso. So basically somewhere between Cluso and Cato, we're going to turn basically 360 for north. Transition altitude in the United States, 18,000 feet everywhere you go. After we make our turn to the north, we're going to be setting up for the ILS on runway 27 center. So come on up here. I think basically we've got Yvonne, Driscoll, and at least Jumbo set in there. So at Jumbo, we want to be 4,000 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and make that our top of descent altitude, since we don't have altitude guidance on this particular descent. So let's make 4,000 feet our descent. If we were on VATSIM right now, we would probably be on this approach. We would be given a clear to descend at pilot's discretion, descend and maintain 4,000 feet or some sort of an altitude. Probably a few intermediate steps is what we would be getting on that. Looking over here, we've got 4.2 as our estimated fuel on board once we get to Chicago. And so if we come over here and remind ourselves, looking at the flight plan, what remaining fuel is supposed to be, it's supposed to be 3.7. We've actually done really, really well by our fuel. So we're in pretty good shape as far as remaining fuel. So we're not going to violate that. We had the departure performance. There is another part of this called arrival performance. These two little applications in this EFB, electronic flight bag, I've got to tell you, these are things that absolutely, I'm so totally jazzed about all of this, because these are things that the real world pilots had in their EFBs, and now we've got them, and that's awesome. Our arrival runway again is 27 center, so ILS 27 center. Put in 27. Let's refresh the METAR. Now we're going to apply the METAR. Okay, landing weight. What's our landing weight here? Well, if we come on in here, we could go into the init page B. Let's see what we got on page B. Do we have a landing weight? Well, there's gross weight, there's zero fuel weight. I don't see something there. What's another way we could go about doing this? Okay, zero fuel weight. Where zero fuel weight is 56.9. That's what we put in there, right? So let's go over there, and at the rate of our fuel, we can come over here and go 56.9. Our estimated fuel when we get to Chicago is 4.3, so plus 4.3. Is that a reasonable assumption for what our landing weight might be? Let's call it 61.2. Let's say that that's our landing rate. So come on over here, landing weight, 6.1. Okay, there's got to be a point in there. 0.2 and return. 61.2. We're going to go, let's do medium auto brakes. Idle to no reverse. Yeah, let's go and add reverse. There's only a choice, idle or no or max. So it's somewhere in there. It's going to be a manual landing, full flaps, auto throttle is on. So all of this looks good. Let's go and apply this METAR. And what did I forget? Manual landing, full flaps, landing distance procedures. I don't think I have to do that. What did I forget here? Oh, landing condition. It's dry. So it's a dry runway. Oh, look at that. Now we've got our landing distance. So if I go with max reverse and medium auto, let's go with a thrust idle reverse. And so idle, no reverse. Is there a refresh here? Let's hit the dry button again. There's a good runway. There's dry. So that didn't change much. Let's see what low auto brakes does. Low auto brakes. There's low auto brakes. So this is the least impact on the airplane. And right now, based on the METAR, it's going to take us about 2,081 meters to get us stopped. So that's our landing. I think that's probably good. So let's go low auto brakes. So we've got this. Now, I'm still learning about this, but this is such a cool, this is really amazing to have this here. So how are we doing here? Wants destination data. So we know that this is the latest METAR. So let's put our destination data in. So clear there, performance. We got 56 miles to go, so we got time to put the destination data in. So the altimeter is 2984. So 2984. You might have noticed that I don't have everything figured out about this airplane. That's the way a lot of us are going to be, unless you're, you know, one of the real world pilots that are out there that is flying this thing around. Weather is, wind is 190 at 15. 190 at 15. You might think that, you know, it would be better for me to not do a video like this, but you know, the thing is about flight sim is all about learning about the real world and how it works. And so I think it's okay to say, hey, I don't know about this, and you can learn about this. 853 feet is our barrow. So 853. And there you go. There's all of our landing stuff. Go back to performance. And we're 49 miles to top of descent. And we're coming up on Veek. And everything looks good. So that's kind of the way that I've been doing, you know, trying to figure out my landing and landing weight and all that. Well, I think that's a fairly reasonable way to go about it until somebody tells me otherwise. And by the way, I'm still really new here on YouTube. So one of the things is I'm still to the point where I read all the comments. If you've got comments, questions, if you know how to do it the right way, please put it in comments. I definitely read them. And when I learn how to do it the right way, I include that in my workflow. Some people have been asking over on the spy flight, what in the world are these? This is the CPDLC. So this is text messaging between airplanes and air traffic control is the best way that I explain it. And you can get a clearance through this. You can do oceanic clearance. You can do some basic messages. And the idea is we're not going to tie up voice communications. I think that CPDLC is supposed to work better than the voice communications sometimes work over the ocean. Because I think you have to use the high frequency radios. And so right now here's the VHF here. And let's see, do we have the high frequency? I think high frequency is up here. Maybe this airplane isn't equipped with HF radios. Boy, I have to learn about that clearly. This airplane does not, the real airplane does have a printer. This airplane doesn't have a printer. Some of them do in flight sim now. I think because you can go and have things on a dual FMC like this, the printer thing is a nice little thing to have in your sim airplane, but this works just as well. So yeah, we've got HF here. I could, oh, look at, oh, well, yeah, here's your high frequency radios. Duh. Why not click the button? Okay, yeah. Hey, we're all here to learn, right? Gotta love it. What else can I possibly do? I think we're in about as good shape as we can be. The only other thing that I might do at this point is hit the radio nav button, and it's already identified IUYJ. We can go to our chart, IUYJ. It's 110.9 and 273. 110.9. It says 274 here. Okay, it's even got the runway slope. So another thing to do is verify that here in your ILS and the frequency, all of that information has already populated. Sometimes it won't be in there, but that's a good thing to verify. It's just sort of like, hey, the airplane's already set and ready to go. And we're 25 miles from top of descent. Boeing airplanes and older Airbuses and the McDonnell Douglas MD-11, those are airplanes that I know for sure. You can arm the the airplane to automatically descend. I believe starting with the Airbus A319 2021 and beyond, Airbus changed and they said, no, we want a human to tell the airplane to descend. We actually want the human to say, yes, airplane, it's okay to descend. So right now, I don't know that there is a way to arm a descent here. Two options here. You might see my pointer here under metric altitude. It changes. If I move it to the top of the button, the arrow's pointing up. If I move it to the bottom, it's pointing down. And in the middle, it's the twist the knob. So pointed up is managed. You see the little dots here? That's managed. Pointed down is just an open descent. Managed means if there's any constraints or anything like that, it's going to observe those for altitude. It'll still observe your speed constraints as long as the little dots over here for your landing, unless you take over manual control and say, no, I want my knob to control this as opposed to the McDo. I generally McDon't on that. And there's the McDo joke. One of the things is we'll look at the clock here. It says it's 14:51 Zulu. Come on over here. When are we supposed to be on the ground? Remember that off, on thing? We're supposed to be landing at 15:29 Zulu. And the current time is 14:52. Wow, we're doing pretty good. About a half an hour? I'd say we're right on schedule here. In fact, let's go over and see if we've gotten any messages. Sometimes you might notice something called UAL ops or BAW ops or something like that. This airplane cares about whether or not you got an on-time departure. And if you did not do an on-time departure, you have to cop an excuse. And to find out what your excuse is, you see the delay allocation card. These are your excuses. So, you know, I think they had to add another one, CAT, cat in, cats in the cockpit or something like that. So anyway, that's where that is. That's how you know about those. You can also, it says use an external device. You can also use this with an external iPad. I've set it up. It works really, really well. The reason that I'm not using that is because I want to be able to show you what I'm doing with the electronic flight bag. And if I'm doing it on my iPad, I'd have to set up another camera. And I decided I'd rather have pizza than a camera. So there you go. Look at this. We are 3 miles from top of descent. My feeling is anywhere between, 5-10 miles out. It probably wants you to hit the button exactly. So 1 mile. And when it hits, so maybe now's a good time. I'm going to try and start hitting it at once. So manage descent. And here is the donut. And that's what I think they call that little green dot there. And that is, are you on your descent path? This is the green dot over here for flaps, for flap extension. But they call this one, I believe, the donut. I usually refer to that as the SimCaesar donut. SimCaesar is a live streamer over on Twitch who likes donuts. So there you go. And as long as the donut is centered over here, you're right on your descent path. So we've started our descent. At this point in time, the captain might pop on the PA system, say, hey, folks, from the cockpit, you might have noticed a change in the pitch of the flight of the deck here. We have started our descent into Chicago. Right now, the weather in Chicago is looking pretty good. There's a little bit of a breeze out there, and it's gusting to about 27 knots. So you'll probably notice a couple of bumps on the landing. Visibility's good. There's a few clouds here and there. The temperature is 24 degrees Celsius in Chicago, which translates to about 75, 76 degrees, so a beautiful day. There are pilots that can do that kind of calculation in their head. I have a cheat sheet over on the other monitor. Those people that can do those kinds of calculations in their head really annoy those of us that can't. Okay, so here we are. We're finding our descent. It looks really good coming up on Boone and Hanny. Again, after Cluzo, between Cluzo and Cato, we're going to take control and do our vectors. And you can do the Victor joke again if you want. Our descent is pretty good. We're going a little bit slower, but that's all right. I don't mind going kind of slow on this one. ATC, if we were in a busy VATSIM event or we were in the real world, ATC would be telling us, speed it up, slow it down, That's how they keep everything moving smoothly. And if you haven't been on VATSIM in a while, or you're just joining, I will tell you that there's a couple of airports and ATC zones around the world that handle heavy traffic loads like pros. They move a lot of airplanes in and out of airports very efficiently, very well. And the number of very, very high quality ATC zones on VATSIM is really increasing. It's getting really pretty cool out there. If you're new to VATSIM and what I just said might be a little bit intimidating to you or something like that, one of the things that I would say is just don't go into a big event starting out. Start small. Go to some medium airports. Go and fly in and out of Chicago at a time when it's not a VATSIM event to start learning about that. That's the way to learn those sorts of things. I will also tell you that since Microsoft Flight Simulator popped online and Microsoft Flight Simulator's multiplayer, you know that in multiplayer there's a lot of people zipping around and going crazy and doing all sorts of other stuff, which is the fun of Microsoft Flight Simulator. VATSIM doesn't really like it when that happens. So if you're one of those that just likes zipping around and getting in other people's way, keep that in multiplayer. Please don't bring that to VATSIM. They're getting annoyed about that, and I have a feeling that some people are going to start getting banned for doing things like that. Okay, coming up here on Jumbo. So remember over on our charts, over on Jumbo here. So let's look at the ILS. Let's remind ourselves at Jumbo it's 4,000 feet. So we chose wisely on that approach. So that's good. We are approaching one of my altitudes, 25,000 feet. So this is when I look up here and decide, 25, 26, 27,000 seatbelts. So we gotta pop that on. And if you look back here, you look up there, you see the seatbelt sign is on. Yes, this airplane is so complete. It is perfect for aviation geek people like me. It really is. Okay, here we are. We're coming up on Clouseau right now. And if you look, here is 360. So heading north, and there's Jumbo. So our scheme, our little plan to turn 360, it's a really good idea. I think that's going to work out. Now, we're a little bit high because this descent was planning on us going out via Pink, Monks, Giorgio, and out this way. So we're going to probably go more like 030 because we're going to have to burn off a little bit of altitude on this. But that's okay. Seatbelts are on. Everything's looking good. Approaching 18,000 feet. The current time, it is, oh, look at that, 14:58 Zulu. Guess what? This is the zone for weather. So I'm going to come over here, and we're going to go to weather, and we're going to do a weather request. KORD. Pop that in, request the METAR, and send our request in. Let's come on over here. You have to hit it twice to get out, and then go to received messages. Weather data has arrived. And this there, oh, look at this, this is 1451. This is the new weather. So come on over here, and we're going to go and just check. So the new altimeter in Chicago is 2983. It dropped. So 2983. That looks good. The temperature in Chicago is up a few degrees, 26 degrees. So we're going to do that. Our winds in Chicago are 190 at 18. It's gotten windier, but it's the Windy City, so if that didn't happen, I'd be wanting a refund. And there we go. We've got our latest weather. Back to the main perf page, and we're still in descent mode. We're coming on up here. There is Clouseau and Cato. Let's go ahead and do our little turn. So what I'm going to do is go and click the bottom button for heading and 030 for our vectors. You notice that I'm doing things a little bit slower. A lot of people, and myself included, when I'm in a VATSIM event, I think that I have to do immediately, oh my God, thousands of people are going to die if I don't do it right now. Okay, you don't have to do it really that immediately. You do have to do things, in a timely fashion, but you don't have to race through this sort of thing. And that's the message there. Okay, we're also within 15 miles of Jumbo, so I'm going to go ahead and start reducing my speed. We are definitely a little on the high side here. So I'm going to go down to 210. And so we're engine idle. And you know what? We also probably are going to need a little bit of speed brake here. So look out the window, and there's a touch of speed brake. Okay, so word about speed brakes in these airplanes. So here's your handle down here, speed brakes. The real world pilots suggest that when you're flying along like this and you're on approach and you have to throw out the speed brakes like that, if at all possible, leave your hand on the speed brake lever. Because apparently, you know, sim pilot, I've forgotten, and I've left the speed brakes out on my, as I come in. And because of that, you know, that causes trouble on landing, obviously. And so that's a thing. That's a thing. So I think we're a little bit too high here. I think we're way too high. So I'm going to retract my speed brakes. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look at my airport chart. And we're coming in on the 27s. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and remind myself of what the reciprocal course is. It's 093 degrees. I'm going to continue my turn to 093 degrees. We're going to just go out a little bit. We're too high. We're going to have vectors for descent. So we're going to go and go away from the airport on the vector, and, on the opposite reciprocal course, and come back in because we're just way too high. Okay, 18,000 feet, I think that's close enough. The altimeter setting, 2983. So, 2983. Some low pressure today. Lower pressure in the Chicagoland area. I wonder if they've got a big day of thunderstorms. So 2983. That's good. And I'm going to be a good pilot, and I'm going to set my backup. 2983. Good. 17,000 feet. And we're probably descending fairly quickly at 1900. I'm going to go ahead and reduce this to about 15 and see if I can't get a little bit of a speed reduction here. And you'd know if your speed's going down if a little yellow arrow starts going down. Ah, see, it did show up. That's another thing about these airplanes. Patience, young Padawan, is what Qui-Gon Jinn would say in Star Wars. Patience on these airplanes. Give it a second before you actually go, we're not going down, let's go down even faster. You know, gently does it on these jets really seems to be the way that it works. At least that's the way it's worked. It seems to work for me. If you think, if you're out here and you're going, oh my gosh, I got no idea where we are, just go back to your chart. Let's look at the arrival. And Veek, so, oh, look at this. It shows where we are. We're right over the lake, the middle of the lake here. There's the runways. So there's a way to find it. If you're not on the chart, just go back here and go to the route chart. And so at this point, it's going to show, we'll zoom it in. You can pinch it, move it up there. There's another way for you to see where you are. Very nice. Okay, we're 14,000 feet. We wanted to be 4,000. Our speed's still not coming down quite as fast as I might like, but we're still kind of moving along pretty good. How about 1,300 feet per minute? See if that doesn't get our little yellow arrow down and get our speed down a bit. There is a little thing that I look for here. It's very hard to see. Okay, it's right here in the middle. You see the two little gold, orange, yellow lines on the top of that little speed marker? There is our, that's flap extension. I think that this is the top end of flap extension, so somewhere between, and I'm probably using the wrong term, I call them the hash marks. But those are basically, when I see those, I think if I'd like to get some flaps out to help get a little control of my speed, then that's one of the things that I look for. And this is probably fairly good. Let's go ahead and turn back towards the runway. And again, gently does it. I'm just going to go to about 300. And let's roll out on 300 degrees and see if we can see our runway. We may have to turn this back up to 40. May have to turn it up to 40 miles to see our runway coming in. Okay, we're below those little hash marks there, so if I wanted to, I could do a notch of flaps. There goes our leading edge slats. And I'll bet we got a little flap coming out there too. Slats are cool. All right, as we slowly start rolling it around here. Okay, and here is when we're expected to be at our altitude we want to be at. So we got a little line there. Up there's Jumbo coming around. I think we need to wheel this around to 270. Let's get this around to our runway heading, or abouts. 270. So there we go, coming around. And it looks like we're going to be close to about 4,000 feet at Jumbo. We may need to increase our rate of descent now. So let's raise this back up to about 1,500. This line should get a bit shorter, maybe even 16, but with a little bit of flap out, I don't think that we're going to pick up too much speed. And there is our runway. There is our first waypoint. And around we go. Let's go ahead and activate the LS system, landing ILS system. Okay, now we could probably, because of wind, we're going to need to turn this over here a little bit more. Now at this point, ATC might tell us direct jumbo. So let's go to direct and direct jumbo and insert that. Notice when you do that, it automatically takes control back away from you and gives it to the McDo, and now we are direct to jumbo. And I think this is showing that we're going to be at 4,000 feet, right about at jumbo there. So I think we're in pretty good shape, 10,000 feet. And in fact, look at this. We're getting on our, there's the little donut. So let's reduce our rate of descent now so that we can keep that centered. Again, if you're doing it all managed, the computer does this for you. So part of the fun of this is let's do it ourselves. Okay, now we're getting a little bit too low. And still a little bit too low. Let's leave it at about 8 and see what happens. Okay, here's another little symbol that shows up down here in the map. I call that the squiggly. Now there's probably a more appropriate term, but I call this the squiggly. And the squiggly is when we're actually going, when this is going to be centered. This is when you intercept your descent path. So, yep, there's the squiggly. And I'm sure that there is another term, but you know, squiggly's kind of fun. We're past 10,000 feet. Guess what I forgot to do? Landing lights. So 2 clicks, 1 click on the nose light, and we're also going to hit the all button. All call, let the cabin crew know it's 10,000 feet. All right, and so the squiggly has disappeared. Now we're getting on our descent path. So we're going to increase the rate of our descent now to about 1,000 feet per minute and try and keep the Sim Caesar donut centered. We are now 30 miles from the airport. It says IUYJ shows up down here. If you didn't go down and check it out in the McDo, be sure you check this out. Make sure that it's good. You may have a scenery error, and that's no fun. Okay, now we're getting a little bit high. So let's go ahead and increase this. I do it, you know, 1 or 2 clicks. Okay, everything else is looking pretty good here. At this point, I'm going to do a checklist. This is the approach checklist. The briefing has been done ad nauseum. The ECAM status is checked. Nothing is showing up that's bad. Seatbelts are on. Barrel reference is set. The MDA has been set. Engine mode's going to be normal. The approach checklist is done. There's a thing that you do in Airbuses every half hour. So the ECAM, you run through all of these little buttons. So the real world pilots have to run through all of those. And I believe that I heard them say they do that every 30 minutes on a flight. Okay, we're in descent mode. I have control of the speed now, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to activate approach mode in here, and that gives me a VAP speed. Our approach speed is about 135. And we're doing a pretty good job of keeping the Sim Caesar donut centered. Coming up on Jumbo, and look at that. You see the little half diamond there? That little half diamond means we are picking up the localizer that's right and left on the of the ILS. There's no little diamonds over here on the on vertical speed, on altitude capture, so we're not picking up the descent yet. There is the Chicago skyline. Absolutely amazing skyline. I think that this would probably be, I know it gets cold there in the wintertime, but it's no secret, over on the Spy Flight, I really like Chicago deep dish pizza. I think that this would be a great place to live. Look over there. There's Navy Pier. Okay, there's the John Hancock building off to the side. If you look really carefully, you can probably see Triss from Divergent ziplining down to Dauntless headquarters. We're doing really good on the descent. Now, if we're not going to pick up the ILS for a while, one of the things that we could probably end up doing is we could go and just have it zero in on the localizer first and then go to approach mode. Come on back over here to the charts though. And let's go to the starred charts and look at our approach. After this one, we're going to go down to 2,200. So let's go ahead and go down to 2,200. So there's 2,000. It's really kind of hard to grab the inner ring when you're in on this view. But we're going to just let it continue on down. Oh, look at that. We got localizer and glide slope now. So I'm going to reduce my... I'm going to keep my rate of descent pretty good here. We're just slightly below the glide slope. I think we can go and arm the approach. And so arm the approach is going to go ahead and set us up. You can see over here it says localizer is blue, altitude glide slope is blue. That means those are armed, and we are it's going to go ahead and intercept those for us. I'm going to dial my map in to the next notch. We're 15 miles out. Sometime in the next 5 to 10 miles, ATC might tell us to slow it down a little bit. In fact, let's go and do that now. 180 is usually what they want us to do coming in. So 180. And they would probably tell us at this point, reduce speed to 180, maintain 180 knots until Driscoll. Usually that's what they will tell you to do. Glide slope localizer now got a star in a box. That means that they are acquiring those. Our speed is coming down. Here is another set of those little hash marks I talk about. There is the S for another point that we can throw out another notch of flaps. So once we get below those, we're getting glide slope and localizer. We can look out the window and go flaps 2. And watch the flaps go out and be airplane geeks. All right, that looks good. So we need to go and arm our speed brakes. Speed brakes are armed. We decided on auto brakes low, right? So auto brakes are low. And we're going to do just an idle. We're going to do an idle thrust, reverse thrust for landing, and let's see how it does. Okay, the runway is now within 10 miles, so map goes to 10 miles. And we are on 10-mile final. We can do our final approach speed at Driscoll. If you didn't do that, do activate the approach. Make sure you're on the approach page. At this point in time, we can look over at Chicago. Hello, Chicago. And we can go and do the landing gear. How about wheels? Here come our wheels. Okay, so we got wheels now. And we're coming up, we are 2 miles from Driscoll. That's when we're going to reduce our speed to final approach speed. Over here, I know I'm all set here. One thing is you could leave this up in case you have to do missed approach, or usually if I don't think I'm going to go missed, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead, and if I have a second, I'm going to come over here and center this up so that I've got this set up for landing. I'm also going to come down here if I'm on VATSIM, and I'm going to preset my next frequency to ground, which at a lot of the major airports is 121.9, because they're going to want us to go ground. If you're like me, you get yourself kind of folded up in your gamer chair and stuff like that, now's the time to sit in correctly. Put your feet on the rudder pedals. There is Driscoll and speed for landing. Look down here. Are we below that little set of hash marks? We are. Flaps 3. There goes flaps 3. And there's the runway. We appear to be a bit crabby here. So crabby because of that 20-knot crosswind, I guess. Some sceneries in Microsoft Flight Simulator for Chicago do not have this runway modeled. And there's flaps for full. And there goes flaps full. Some don't have this runway. I ended up getting the payware. I think I got it through the marketplace. If you're trying to decide what payware airports to get, I will tell you Chicago is one to get. Now maybe that's because I like Chicago pizza, but there you go. Okay, at this point in time, we're going to do landing checklist, and the landing checklist, cabin crew is happy. Auto throttle is going to be set to speed. Auto brakes are not needed right now. ECAM checklist. The ECAM checklist is all green. We are good to go for landing. Checklist is good. Sit back, have a look at the runway. Hand on the stick, hand on the throttles, feet on the rudder pedals. You can see we're kind of bouncing around a little bit.
500.
500, somewhere around here. I'm going to go ahead and autopilot's off. Captain's got the airplane.
100 above.
Watch your descent. It's windy. Whoa! Well, we told the passengers, remember, that it was going to be windy. Continue. We told them it was going to be windy. So nice little crosswind landing.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
Reverse. I always over control on these. Whoa! It's windy in Chicago. Now, I'm not the greatest pilot in the world here, so that's why it was so incredibly sloppy. So this airplane takes practice. I think this one's different from other flight simulator airplanes. I've got a bunch of right rudder right now. And off on the high speed. Tap the brakes, and we can roll out. Flaps up, speed brakes down. Welcome to Chicago. So Chicago is a windy little airport. It sure is. We're off the runway, and there goes the strobes. Quick look over there. How we doing? Let's go ahead, and we're going to grab the Romeo in. I have to tell you that the landing speeds were spot on. We did auto brakes low. We just did idle reverse, and the airplane... Everything was great except my really bad crosswind landing skills. So this airplane takes practice. I think that the other airplanes before this airplane and the PMDG came out are a lot more forgiving than this one. Okay, we're coming on in. I'm going to go and do the master switch for the APU. And as we come over here, I'm going to do the start switch. And we're going to get the APU running. The next thing on my to-do list is, aside from practicing my really, really bad landing skills, is I'm going to start trying to learn one-engine taxi, which would be the APU would be started. We would make sure that the yellow electric pump is on, and then engine number 2 we would shut down and taxi in on engine number 1. The yellow electric pump is this thing right up here. And that's so that you have brakes. Because I guess stopping is a thing. We are looking for, I think, Alpha 5 or Tango 6 or one of those as we come on in here. And look at that, no scratches in the paint. Didn't scratch the paint at all. Got our speed brakes down. So we're going to go past the penalty box there. So one engine taxi is my next thing to learn. And always on these airplanes, when you find new things to learn, that's just the cool part of all this. Let's kind of zoom this in just a little bit. So this is where we're going to turn in right here. We could probably go here and look for Alpha 6. Let's look for Alpha 6. So around we go over here. And then we'll go inside the banana area here in Chicago. We're doing thrust idle taxi right now. Don't have any additional thrust on this. Didn't bend the airplane at all. Although, boy, that landing. It's a good thing I don't have replay. This is not one I want to see. APU bleed can go on as we get ready to start shutting down engines. And look over here. We're coming around 9. We're going to keep going till we get to this little one here. So A6. And that's going to get us in. And if we look over here, A6. Imagine that. How crazy is that? The markings actually agree with the map. You might have noticed that a lot of my camera views, I'm able to switch fairly quickly. In Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can use the hat switch and move around, but there's also a quick view system. One of my safety tips that I like to talk about for quick views is make them the same throughout all of your airplanes. So whether it's the 747 or the Cessna 152, my main forward view for flying the airplane is the 0 button on the number pad. And I try and make that the same for every airplane. Every airplane that I have, the number 5 button is always my upper panel. And that's just what I do. That's if you've got those buttons always the same. This is always the autopilot, the number 1 button. The number 2 button is always the McDo or the FMC. One of the changes that I've made, I'm using the Thrustmaster Airbus TCA officer pack for my controllers. One of the things that I've done with that is my up and down hat switch is now my trim. I have to be able to have a better trim button, and that's the only option that I have. So I can't use the hat switch to look up and down. All I can do is look right and left. And really, that's about all I need, is to be able to look right and left. And then, as I mentioned, on the TCA officer pack, officer stick, one of the things that I suggest is having a button that returns you to your main view. So the main view is an important one to have while your hands are on the stick and the throttle. That way you can control the views as you need them. And here we are into Chicago. One other thing that I like to suggest is if you're going to fly on VATSIM, turn off multiplayer. I was on VATSIM last, so that's why you don't see anybody here. And start to slow down a little bit. So gate speed here in the gate area, and if you want to know what your speed is, see where it says ground speed? We're at 4 knots. That's really pretty good. How about this? I'll bet this is a great 737 gate. 730. This is a great Airbus A320 gate. We're going to go into gate Charlie 9. How's that sound? So Charlie 9, we come on around here. One of the things that is missing from Microsoft Flight Simulator at a lot of airports is gate guidance going in. And that's something that I think they really need to do. That's next. And if you look there, this airport is so good. So there's a 340, 330, 757, 320. Okay, so Airbus is the third notch there. Okay, so for this, since there's no gate guidance, this is when I'll actually go outside the airplane and might need to add a little bit of power coming in. Take your time on coming in. Get yourself on the line. And we're going to get the 3rd notch here. Now we're just thrust idling here. Okay, 340.75. Oh, my brakes are too sensitive. Not all the airports are going to have this really nice airplane markings. .320. Parking brakes are on. We already know the APU is up because I started it. Engine number 1. Engine number 2. Now as we come in here, we need to do a few buttons here. So let's turn off the beacon, turn off the nose light. We'll do seat belts since the engines are off. We're going to turn off our fuel pumps. I was hoping that the jetway would come out now. Disarm the emergency exit doors. Now here comes our jetway. There comes our jetway. This is one of the cool airports. So if you move around, you can actually go in the terminal here. Okay. All right. Massive airplane geek stuff. And if you come over here and look at the electronic flight bag, do you want to commence deboarding? It gives you the option to do that, and it will start deboarding the passengers. And you actually can kind of look out the window like this and just, okay, massive geeky moments here. You get to enjoy that for sure. Let's see. That was a very bad landing. So we're going to come over here. We'll open the door, and the passengers will walk by and says, sorry, the co-pilot was flying. You know, make that kind of lame excuse. If we're on VATSIM, I should have been good and turned off traffic. We should have also turned off the transponder. Oh, and another important safety tip, turn off train radar. Right now, we're irradiating everybody in front of us, which is because I did not do the parking checklist. APU bleeds are on, engines are off, seatbelts are off, the external lights are as required, fuel pumps are off, the parking brakes and chocks are in place. And we can come down here, we can go to the Fenix, and we can go to ground services and have a look. It's already got ground power is in, chocks and cones are out, and our left door is open. So that's all. That takes care of those for you. So what we'll do is we're going to punch in ground power. We'll leave the APU up and running for the next flight. And here we all are. Welcome to Chicago. How about that? Somebody needs to go and grab me some Chicago pizza here. Now, if you wanted to, you could come up here and you could go like this, and you could go to showcase, and you could go and dial this down to about 7, turn it off, grab your Game Boy, your Xbox controller, and kind of slide over like this. Oh my gosh. You can see the airplane out the windows. I can almost smell a Starbucks coffee counter here. So there's our ticket stand. This is an incredible piece of scenery. There's the door. Some point in time, I'm sure we're going to be able to start walking down. Someone's going to make a jetway that you can walk down like this. I'm sure that's going to be coming up soon. Yes, I have been away from the world of aviation just far too long. Okay, let's go back over here, and I think you probably geeked out enough with me. The only other numbers things that you could possibly, if you wanted to, you could come down here. You could take a look at the fuel in the tank. We are currently at 4.1, and if you come over here and go to your flight plan, do pilot brief, flight plan, look down here. What was our remaining fuel supposed to be? 3.7. We won the fuel game. And congratulations, you made it. How about that? Thank you so much for flying along with me. I hope that you had as much fun as I do. This is such an amazing airplane. And this is the sim has just, this airplane and the PMDG have really grown this sim to an amazing level. I call it leveling up. Again, thank you for watching. My flights are not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is what works for me. My goal is to help you get your airplane away from the gate, up in the air, at cruise, on the ground, and back to the gate, and have a little fun doing that too. I'm still new here on YouTube. Please leave questions, comments, criticisms. I read everything on YouTube. If you've got an idea for a video, I take a lot of ideas from viewers. I really do. I am new here on YouTube, so I'm not monetized or anything like that. If you liked the video, wanted to show some love and support, come on over to Twitch. We fly every day, Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu on Twitch. It's always a group flight. Everybody's welcome. Questions are welcome in chat too. I hope you come in and do that. And I hope that you are doing well. I hope you are having as much fun with these airplanes as I am, and I will look forward to seeing you in the friendly sim skies soon again here on YouTube, and even sooner probably on Twitch. Take care.